This one?
You're okay.
I'm okay. Good evening. Welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Firstly, I think that we need to acknowledge something, and that is the immense sense of relief that we're all feeling today. Our buses were running this morning. Our doors were open early as usual. Our staff and our students were fully engaged today. It was a very stress-filled weekend for all in our school community. The announcements from our Minister of Education and from QP last night resulted in many sighs of relief. So we have much for which to be thankful. We are grateful. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, the agenda is in front of you. Could I have a motion to approve that agenda? Christine Thatcher, all those in favor? Thank you. Report from Committee of the Whole in camera, we do not have tonight. So we are moving to our first DDSB presentation, and I'm looking forward to this. Superintendent Georgette Davis, up to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. This report can be found on pages 1 to 3 of your agenda package. The purpose of this report is to recognize Heather Hocko-Gray for her receipt of the Friend of Health Award. The Friend of Health Award recognizes recipients for their support and cooperation in working collaboratively with the Durham Health Department program staff in the delivery of programs and services. The TAMI, Talking About Mental Illness Coalition, has been chosen as one of the Durham Regional Health Department 2019 Friend of Health Award winners for its work in the delivery of mental health education. The Friend of Health Award was presented at an award presentation hosted at Regional Council on September 25th, 2019 at the Regional Municipality of Durham headquarters, and the TAMI Coalition Chair, Heather Hocko-Gray, received the award on behalf of the coalition and in recognition of her work with the TAMI Coalition. The coalition is a community collaboration of dedicated, innovative, and passionate practitioners representing multiple community organizations, including 3 boards, which one is Durham District School Board, 2 local hospitals, public health, as well as several mental health agencies. Heather has been a youth counselor with Durham District School Board for 28 years and working with SAL, or Supervised Alternative Learning, for students. Her role includes supporting students and their families, providing crisis intervention, and making community referrals. So we would like to take this time to congratulate Heather. We value you and the work that you do with our students, staff, and families. I now invite Chair Barrett, Vice Chair Morton, Director Miller, Heather Hocko-Gray to come to the front to take a picture in recognition. So thank you, Heather.
Before we come to the front, could I say a few things? Yes. And it has been an honor and a privilege for me to work with Heather for the last 9 years working in SAL, and I admire the work that she does. And I've often said to both Nicole and Heather that I would love to be able to clone Heather, but unfortunately we're not able to do that. I also want to mention that Heather is going to be recognized on November the 5th nationally for the work that she does. So we applaud your efforts, Heather, and thank you for doing the work that you do. And if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to do that. And when Heather and Nicole are still here, we're going to call upon Superintendent Stephen Nevels to talk about SAL. Stephen?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Following this recognition award for our TAMI program, you'll find an information report on pages 4 to 9 of your package relating to our supervised alternative learning program. The purpose of this report is to give the committee background on this educational program, which at its heart functions to reconnect students to learning, overcome personal barriers to education, and to realize their potential. To help to explain more about the program, we are joined by Nicole Rands, our incredible SAL facilitator, and Heather Hockle-Gray, our outstanding SAL youth worker. Their presentation this evening will highlight the functions of this unique program and will allow the committee to hear from some of the many students and parents that have been impacted. Nicole?
Look at that. Good evening, thank you. Sorry, I'm just bringing up. Let's see. So SAL is governed through Regulation 374-10, which provides opportunities for students who are struggling at school to participate in a different type of programming for a short period of time. I'm not moving forward.
What's happening?
It's not moving.
Not going?
It's going on here and not on there.
I did it again.
Thank you so much. Regulation 374-10 offers students aged 14 to 17 who experience difficulties at school with alternative programs. The program must meet the policies and procedures as outlined for SAL, but offers flexible learning opportunities for students who require different types of education. SAL provides extra support, personalized relationships, specialized environments, and flexible learning options. The focus is on a good outcome for each student. At the time of referral, we ask students this question: how do you feel right now? And we ask students to respond with single words or short phrases to explain their experience. Their answers are represented in this wordle. The wordle represents the words that were said the most often by being the largest words. You can see that a lot of these students were struggling. We don't see a lot of hope or concern for their future pathway. We asked the students the same question when they finished their SAL programs, and their responses were quite different. When we look at these words, we see students at the end of their SAL program, and we see a difference in their perspective on their future and the elements of hope. These students believe in their next steps and know that with the right conditions, they can be successful in their environments. Why does SAL work so well? We have targeted interventions to promote success. We have a focus on well-being and mental health. And we have engagement through connections to caring adults, peer, and the community at large. SAL programs do a lot to support success in students. We have a large focus in the learning plan on building skills. Students work on academic and personal skills as part of their learning plans. They are connected with a primary contact teacher in the school who sits down with the student and the parent to create these plans. Our activities in our classrooms are varied and diverse, just like our students. Students participate in compulsory level courses as well as optional courses and are able to access both tactile and digital resources. When we ask our students about their levels of success, these are some of the things that they say. I used to struggle more in mainstream high school to finish work because of the large class sizes and distractions. At CBLP, I'm focused on improving my initiative, concentration, and focus. I feel more accomplished and motivated now to earn credits. I am more focused on improving my work habits, such as concentration, time management, and work completion. In 2018-2019, 426 students in SAL earned a total of 975 credits. When we look at the ways SAL engages students in their well-being, we also have varied methods to do that. Our students participate in a lot of programming that deals with their well-being and mindfulness. Those connections to the caring adults and building those relationships within our school buildings and the community help students see their wellness beyond our classroom that carries them once they finish their time in SAL. Our students participate in physical education, nutrition, listen to guest speakers, enjoy the therapy dogs, and even try out yoga for the very first time. When we ask students about their well-being, this is what they've said. I find it helpful knowing that I'm in a classroom with other students who have had struggles in school too. I've been focused on my social skills since I've joined SAL, and I have become more talkative. My anxiety is so much better here. I like the comfortable environment and relationships with my teacher. Over 60% of students participating in SAL programs receive counseling either through the board or through an outside agency. All students who referred to SAL are usually lacking engagement. We do a lot in the SAL program to build this while they're with us. These students are part of their learning plan. They have an active voice in what they do while they're engaged in a SAL program. We connect them to caring adults both in the school and in the community, and especially we connect them to their peer group. Students go on field trips and participate in activities so they feel more connected and have a sense of belonging to their peer group. Our students have experienced what life is like with therapy dogs or animals on a farm. We've been to cooking classes to learn how to cook a meal for our families. We've harvested vegetables. We've made soup on the street and a community garden. And last year we traveled to Toronto using public transit to experience live theater. When we ask students about how they're feeling about engagement, I'm so proud of myself. I have perfect attendance. Although I've been late a few times, I haven't missed a full day of school, and I plan to keep it that way all semester. It really feels like my voice matters. I like having input on my learning plan. I like our community walks and volunteering in the community making soup and in the community gardens. Many students earn over 10 hours of community service while participating in SAL. I'd like to introduce you to a student voice. This is Emma, who participated in our community-based learning program. And while we listen to Emma's letter that she reads to the SAL committee, I would like you to listen to how Emma had a sense of belonging as being part of her class, and how she was very proud of the gains she had made while in SAL.
Dear SAL Committee, I am requesting a renewal to stay at the CBLP program for a third semester. I realize that this may be an unusual request, but I have done amazing at CBLP and still have a lot to accomplish. In my first semester, my attendance was not great. On average, I attended 2 to 3 days a week. I was really shy and quiet and kept mostly to myself. I moved from Alberta and did not have any friends. I did earn 4 credits. I began working with Heather. She helped me with my anxiety and gave me challenges to do around my social anxiety and making friends, supported me and helped me to connect in the community. In my second semester, things are very different. I've made friends. I am more social in class. I participate regularly, and my attendance has really improved. I have only been away 2 days this entire semester, and that was because I was very sick. I'm never late. I do not want to be away from my classmates or school. My teacher interacts with the students and has really gotten to know me this semester. I feel comfortable in class, and I am learning a lot about myself. I am a lot nicer than I thought I was and can be a lot more social when I make the effort and have strategies. Heather says I've become a leader in the class, that I try to include all my classmates in our daily activities, that I am more positive and am always thinking about others. I have never liked school until now. I am proud of what I have accomplished at CBLP. I think I will earn another 4 credits this semester. I have not earned all my grade 10 credits and hope to earn those next semester. I will continue to work with Heather and learn about myself. My future plans include attending McLaughlin High School in September 2019. Thanks for considering this request, and I hope you will let me stay. Emma.
And our next student who wanted to share her voice with you is Marielle, and she was a student with us last year at CBLP and has continued into this semester as well. And her story, she tells how Sal has supported her mental health as well as her academic goals.
Dear Sal Committee, my name is Marielle Starkey. I have been attending CBLP Oshawa for 1 whole year and a month. Since I have enrolled at CBLP, I have greatly improved my work ethic, anxiety, and understanding of what I am capable of accomplishing in regards to schoolwork and course level. At Anderson CVI, I was in locally developed classes. Now I am in applied and am doing well when I attend regularly. I have been attending and accomplishing much more than I did at Anderson CVI. I have had sleep issues which had resulted in quite a few absences, but I am working with Heather to improve this. I am really going to work on and improve my sleep habits. My mental health is up and down. I am working on this too. The courses I have earned while attending CBLP are civics and careers, 2 learning strategies courses, grade 9 and 10 applied English, phys ed/yoga, and grade 10 applied math. I am currently working on grade 10 applied science. I will finish my science by November 8th. After I have completed my science, I will have finished all of my grade 9 and 10 courses. Altogether at CBLP, I have earned 8 credits. I have also passed the literacy test and completed all my community service hours.
And our next voice is Sam, and Sam's going to share with you how Sal taught her how to believe in herself again. Oops.
My name is Samantha Yarma, and I've been a student in the CBLP program in Oshawa for about 3 semesters now. Since I first started the program, I've realized how much I've improved on my attendance, and now I actually enjoy coming to school. At first, I did not take the program as serious as I wish I had. But last semester, I tried really hard by improving my attendance to get things done, and I ended up getting 5 credits. That made me proud of myself and made me want to come back and try again, so I can achieve more credits. I know I can achieve anything I put my mind to. From being at CBLP, I've had a great support system and a wonderful school experience. I wish every school could be like this. I really like how the classes are small and how the teachers teach us students. I feel like the teachers actually care for the students and make sure everyone is on the right track. There's a lot of people to talk to in the school for support, which is very helpful and needed.
And finally, we also have a voice from our parents. Our parents are our best supporters of our students because they carry on the successes of the student while they're at home and once they leave us in Sal. This is the voice of a parent from a CBLP student last year.
My son has struggled with school for a very long time. He's a quiet, polite kid who only has one interest in life, and that's soccer. I learned of Sal when I was desperate to find something to get him back in school. It's amazing how much my son has accomplished in such a short time he's been there. He comes home and tells me all about the things he's doing. He's participating in yoga, and he used to skip school in grade 9 when that was happening in gym. My husband and I were ecstatic he was back in school. It was like a new kid. He struggles with anxiety and attending every day, but he's accomplished so much with the help of this program and the teachers. From the mother of a kid who is thriving in this environment, I hope he can continue. For the first time in almost 2 years, we have hope that he may finish high school.
And hope is one of the things that we try to provide through SAL programming. Last year, 426 students were able to access programs through SAL and continue their pathway to success. 80% of those students are still working with DDSB this year. An additional 5% used SAL to graduate last year. So thank you for your ongoing support of SAL and for the students that use this program.
A special thank you to our SAL team for their presentation this evening. The Supervised Alternative Learning Program continues to be a successful program which supports the individual needs of so many students. We hope the presentation tonight has highlighted the powerful impact that this program brings on the many lives of our students, and we welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'd like to commend the staff, Nicole, Heather, and the amazing teachers at SAL for their dedication and compassion. I have just worked with them for a short time, but I know for sure that this team works with some of the most vulnerable students in the system, working tirelessly to create a truly inclusive, accessible, and safe environment, while adapting programs to meet the needs of each individual student. Not only those academic needs, but also through counseling, referrals to outside agencies, and through constant monitoring of the programs. There's no need, of course, to take my word for it. The students have, and parents tell us all the time. It is a pleasure to be a member of the SAL committee and support this worthwhile program. Thank you, Heather and Nicole.
Thank you. I agree with all the comments that have said that SAL is a worthwhile problem, but this might not be quite a question for you, but I'm thinking about all the programs we offer as far as DAS, SAL, Center for Success, and I'm just wondering how a student is chosen for either of those programs, and then how the parent involved, because the key word I saw on the comment on the slide was the parent found out about SAL, but did she know there was other options, and what was the best suited program for her child? And I'm getting that sense where a lot of times a parent is offered one program over the other, but the reasoning is not necessary. So how does the teacher say you're better for SAL, or you're better for DAS, or you're better for this, and who's involved in that decision?
Okay. In order to be referred to CBLP, it actually goes through the attendance counselor. So if we go back to that second slide that I showed, SAL is actually the top of the student success model, where most students have been offered alternative flexible scheduling within the school, changing those courses, all the things that student success can offer. What SAL offers is a flexible attendance schedule and that connection. So the attendance counselor is a vital part of that, because most students who come into SAL are not attending the program. So when parents learn of SAL, it's usually after other methods have been exhausted within the school. Most SAL programs are for junior students, so CBLP is for grade 9 and 10 credits. So it is more appropriate for students at that level, where DAS would be for senior credits and Center for Success closer to graduation.
I would just say, it's just a supplemental, just that some of the things that are offered in SAL isn't offered in DAS, and I can see where students would benefit some of the same things that are offered in SAL. And sometimes SAL and DAS are in the same location.
We are.
So I'm just wondering, is there's somewhere cross-connection where teachers can talk to ensure that if the student isn't being successful in DAS, maybe some of the services, like from SAL, could happen?
So this year, actually, DAS has created a senior DAS SAL program, sort of like a senior CBLP. So they have a dedicated teacher. It's in the classroom beside the CBLP. And we also do a lot of reverse integration into DAS. So if we have students in the CBLP program that might want to transition into DAS, we can have them audit a class, and if they're interested, they can join a class for the next semester while they're still students in CBLP. So I think that is an area we're definitely growing. We're seeing that that transitional piece and the success of being in an environment that works for these students. And speaking on DAS's behalf, they're doing a great job in trying to make flexible options for senior students as well.
Thank you. I have one question and one comment, and I'll be quick with both of them. So there, in the video, there was a student who said she had requested to stay for an extra term, and I'm wondering if the program offers that kind of flexibility when someone's clearly succeeding in that environment, if that was a possibility.
Yeah, so the 3 students you heard from have all been in the program more than 1 semester.
Okay.
One of them left and then returned to us. She attempted to return and wasn't ready yet, still needed our support on a few more areas of growth so that she could return later. And the other 2 stayed with us, so still needed grade 9 and 10 in credits. Sometimes we have students who are just beginning their journey on mental health, so when they come in, they start those conversations, they connect with those initial supports, and we are just in a time of beginning those supports when the semester changes. So those students can stay with us for a second semester. And what they do is they write a letter to the SAL committee saying why they want to stay. So it's their opportunity to look back on their growth and to set goals in order to stay. And most students you heard are very proud of the successes that they've had. So we're always open to have students stay longer than 1 semester.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. And the only thing I would say is it strikes me as quite a remarkable thing you're doing. So you're meeting kids where they are and then helping them walk to where they want to or need to go. And I can say nothing about it other than it's quite a remarkable thing that you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I will attest to this is a very remarkable program. I've worked with Sal for 9 years, and I absolutely love working with the staff. I love meeting the parents. I love meeting the students. Because we're opening doors for them. These are students who are very uncomfortable in their regular programming, but in SAL, they shine. The program that you offer, the environment is extremely welcoming. They feel supported, and they gain that level of confidence. So I salute all of you for the work that you do, and thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Moving on. Leveraging digital update, and we'll ask Superintendent Jamila Malia.
Good evening, and through you, Chair Morton. The report can be found on pages 10 through 15 of your agenda. The purpose of this report is to inform the Board of Trustees of the current state of the DDSB Leveraging Digital Initiative within the Innovation Strategic Priority. We are currently embarking on the 3rd year of the Leveraging Digital Initiative, and measurable success has been achieved in providing modern, collaborative, student-centered tools and learning spaces to the students and staff of the DDSB. As well as hardware investments such as Chromebooks, the district continues to provide students in the DDSB with software tools to ensure equity and alignment of our pedagogies and practices in each school. The partnership between IT services and innovation, as well as our unique support model of education technology coaches in schools, has afforded the DDSB national recognition by IBM in their fall 2019 K-12 education newsletter. We are excited to share this update with you this evening. At this time, I would like to welcome Tim Ralph, Innovation Education Officer, and David Rule, Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you. This year marks the completion of the rollout of the Leveraging Digital Chromebook deployment. At this time, we have over 45,000 Chromebooks out in the hands of kids, whether that's through the grades 7 to 12 one-to-one deployment or the carts of 6 that are in all of our grade 2 to 6 classrooms. Teacher training on pedagogical use of the Chromebooks in classrooms is continuing to deepen what our teachers are able to provide, and will continue with a focus on the Cycle 3 schools that just received their 2 to 6 carts this year. A survey completed in the 18-19 school year that included responses from approximately 6,000 teachers, students, and administrators gave us some very promising results. 91% of respondents indicated that there was a positive impact on student learning, and 80% reported that meeting with a coach as a colleague for support was a benefit to their teaching and to their students' learning.
As you may recall, trustees, we have coaches deployed now throughout the board, and they visit all of our schools throughout the year, and their job is to work with our teachers, to plan with them, to show them and work with them in the classroom around how they can leverage digital in their learning spaces. One of the benefits of those coaches that they also provide feedback back to our staff centrally so that we can look at those promising practices that are occurring around the system to encourage our teachers to go deeper and further with the leveraging digital strategy. Looking at the screens, you'll also, I guess, closely see, if we look closely, that we've also been leveraging digital through learning spaces. And what does that mean? So we can see through the photos that leveraging digital through learning spaces in Durham has involved changes in our schools with respect to furnishings. So our chairs and tables allow for more collaboration and inquiry. Our walls, as you can see, in many of our classrooms now are being changed so that students and teachers can work together not only to put things on the walls, but write on those walls as well. And some of our walls are being adapted so that they can open between classrooms so that students can share with one another. Our innovation department has been lucky to partner with our facilities department, and we've been allowed to suggest ways that we can use our hallways and the ends of our hallways where students can meet and collaborate together. We've talked about where electrical sockets are placed in classrooms so that they're more approachable and usable for students when they need to charge devices. And you've probably seen in many of our schools learning hives, those televisions that are on the wall with a small table coming out from the wall, where groups of 4 and 5 students can collaborate together and work together with their devices to complete inquiry projects, to complete presentations, and to further their learning. Overall, when we look at those learning spaces, again, our survey results are highly positive. So we've been tracking, last year we tracked approximately 69 different learning sites and surveyed principals and teachers as to how the impact of those sites was changing the learning in their spaces. And the teachers and principals who reported back to us from those sites, 91% of them said that they've seen improvements in student wellness. 77% of those responding said that they've seen improvements in positive outcomes in student self-regulation, and 91% said they've seen improvements in their students and their on-task behaviors.
There are many tools that have been deployed and put into use for our students throughout the board, and many of these are now available to facilitate equity and accessibility ubiquitously across the system. One of those tools is Read Write, which is an online tool for text-to-speech and speech-to-text that is available for all students across the system. In particular, though, this has been a game changer for many of our students who are in special education programs. It enables them the independence and the ability to reach the heights that all students have. It gives them the same advantage that all other students have. It's also, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of students who are using digital tools as supports for EQAO and for test writing. So providing the opportunity for them and removing the barriers of their use of these tools that have been identified as a need for their learning. Another tool that's been rolled out over the last couple of years is Sora, or Overdrive, which is basically online books and audiobooks. And the audiobooks in particular are a focus as an accessibility item. These books can be accessed on any device, including, and most importantly, on the Chromebooks that they are using in their classrooms, or they have one-to-one. Last year, over 12,000 books were signed out from the DDSB Central Repository. And we're excited that this year, we've enabled a school-based marketplace. So now schools can go and purchase ebooks for their own school community to be reflective of the needs of their own community that can be shared amongst their own building.
And the third initiative we wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about is our D2L Brightspace Professional Learning Hub. So we're very excited about this. We've learned from D2L, the online learning provider, that we're one of the only boards in the province that's now using their product to provide online learning opportunities for staff, not only teachers, but all of our staff throughout the board. This year, in October, we'll be allowing 3,000 teachers the opportunity to start taking courses on the PD day so that they can further their own learning. The D2L environment allows our teachers and staff, all staff, to have learning opportunities provided for them anytime, anywhere, and based on their role. It tracks their progress. It allows them to continue to take work that is relevant to their teaching, their learning, or to their career aspirations as well. And we're very excited to be rolling that product out this year to all of our staff. Here we go. Stop, Dave. We might need Jeff. Same problem? We were doing well and then it just stopped. Yeah. There we go. There you go. There we go. There we go. We're back. Thanks, Jeff. Yep. So trustees and superintendents, what we've tried to do in the last 3 years and what we're going to be focusing on with all of our administrators and teachers in the next few years is to take those activities, the hardware, the software, the learning environments and the pedagogy that links them all together and put them underneath the umbrella of global competency. So that's a phrase you're going to hear more and more in the next little while. We've asked all of our administrators and our teachers to think about their teaching and the learning that comes from it around communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, citizenship, and character. Not only because it allows for success in the classrooms of elementary and secondary schools, but we know that it also prepares our students for the world of post-secondary education and for their careers as well. And so that's an important umbrella when we look at that teaching and learning, not only with technology, but with a changed learning environment that's more appropriate to 2019, and with pedagogies that are personalized to student need.
We are fortunate in our board to have such a positive collaboration between both the technical side in IT services and the pedagogical side in the innovative education department. Through the strong partnership, we've been able to leverage our resources to support learning and teaching within our board in innovative ways and in a positive and effective manner.
Yep, we're good. Oh, is it? Okay. So we're going to play a video for you now. Jeff is warning us it may be loud. This is a video that was produced. It was used with our principal training earlier this year and will be used this fall with our teacher training and our educational technology leader training that's occurring in the next few weeks.
We are using iPads to share what we learned this year.
Helps us all with our learning. I'm taking my Chromebook with me to high school to continue my learning journey. I use my Chromebook to ignite social change.
I'm using my Chromebook to explore my options for after high school.
We're distributing Chromebooks to 37 elementary schools and students in grades 7 to 12.
We've learned a lot in the last few years, and we're learning more and more about how this shift in culture and change in our learning environments and in our technologies and our pedagogies has positively influenced our students. One of the most important things we've learned as well is that there's a key partnership that exists between curriculum and technology, and that's been a real positive for our board, and one that I think has allowed us to move in directions that other boards are finding challenging.
This concludes our presentation this evening, and we'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Speech to text, does that require a special mic? Is it picking up what someone is saying and closed captioning it on the screen for the person to read?
Yes, that's exactly what it does, and there is no need for a special mic. There are microphones built into the laptops and the Chromebooks themselves that will pick up and translate very accurately.
The mic within the computer, just the Chromebook or any computer?
Most laptops these days have microphones.
Will pick it up, so it's just a matter of having the app or the program?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very thrilled with this program. I've seen the difference between before and the after, and walking through schools and seeing students engage. I've seen the change as well in teaching with the level of engagement in class and some of the really creative things that students have done with Chromebooks. And the collaborations, I've seen schools that are collaborating with other students in Japan and different all over the world, which is quite amazing. I'm loving the marketplace where you can actually purchase things that reflect your community, which is really ties in with our CRRP toolkit and everything else that we're rolling out, which is fantastic. The question I have in regards to this is we're dealing with 7 to 12. So what's our return rates or damage rate or loss rate on our devices so far?
Do you want to start? I'll do mitigation. Sure. The loss rates have actually been very low, given the fact that we have 45,000 Chromebooks out there, almost to the point of being insignificant. There is damage to the devices, and we are taking steps now to mitigate those damages, and taking proactive steps. And I'll hand it over to Tim for that.
So one of the things that our coaches, but also our facilitators, have been doing this year and working with teachers is to start moving our students and our staff to talk more about ways to care for their devices. We live in a society where many of our students have many devices at home as well, and so they're grabbing them, they're walking quickly with them, open or closed, as my students and children do at home. And so we're talking to them about the care that's required for the devices. We're also looking at some protective sleeves that we can start rolling out to some of our devices as well that might assist in protecting the devices in their 4-year life as they travel back and forth from school and home, because they are definitely being used a lot, both at school and home, and we now are working very hard to ensure the students understand that not only do they need to care for them, but if they're unable to care for them and if they do break, that there are consequences and there could be costs involved in those consequences.
I have a follow-up to that one. If we're asking for recovery of monies for damages, are we looking at whether or not we have parents that can or cannot afford that?
We absolutely are. So our mitigation strategy allows principals room to decide on what's an appropriate, I'm not going to say discipline, but what's an appropriate response to the care. We understand that things fall off of desks and sometimes get knocked off of tables. And so in those situations, principals have the latitude to absorb those costs, to take care of those costs. In other times, we recognize that students and families will quite willingly say, you know what, this was us, we did this, we absolutely can pay for this. And so we often don't charge a full fee for the device, but we'll charge a partial fee for the device. And when a principal deems it appropriate, they can also waive fees as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I know I've seen my daughter use her Chromebook, and Google Read and Write was very impactful on her. The struggle for her to actually sit down and bang out an essay, it was a barrier, right, to her demonstrating her knowledge. So just a really, just one facet, I understand, but a really important one. And the fact that the equity of the distribution, that all students and the MiFi, and there's so many aspects which, when we're covering off equity, access to, you know, for students with special needs, but also, you know, socioeconomic equity, I think it's a visionary, like to really, and also meeting kids where they are, right? Our kids are immersed in technology, and for them to be expected for 6 hours, 7 hours of their day not to engage in technology is, and expect them to engage in some other way, I think it's asking a lot, and I think this is quite an important initiative, so thank you.
I'd just like to share a personal story. I was at Heathrow during March break, and I was going through the screening process. The young woman ahead of me pulls out her Chromebook, and it had DDSB on it. So it was a conversation starter, and it was a group of students, and I think they were from Eastdale, and they all had their Chromebooks, and I found it quite amazing.
That's neat.
Any other further questions or comments? Patrice.
This was just a quick one. The other thing that I've encountered in schools is keyboarding skills. A lot of students that are used to the thumb, and in English classes or some classes when they have to type out a long thing, I think that we might want to look at, I don't know, having a keyboarding app on there or something that comes standard for students, because I've heard that a consistent complaint over the time. Thanks, sorry.
I can respond. And that is something we hear a lot from our teachers as well. And our students are entering the world of keyboards a lot faster than certainly I did when I was in school, grade 9 with Mrs. Vandergust, GHG. And so I think one of the challenges our teachers of young students have is sometimes the students have already been on the device and have learned their tricks and tips earlier. And I can't speak for all of you. I know in our family, some of my family type faster with 2 than I can with 8. But having said that, I agree with you. And I know that some of our high school teachers have said that by grade 9, when we would traditionally teach that skill, our students have actually ingrained those skills along the way. And so we do see some keyboarding entering the system a little earlier when it's physically appropriate. Some of our younger students, though, even though they're on the keyboards at home a lot, their using that dexterous ability with their fingers isn't quite there yet. And so even though they're on the devices, they don't have the ability yet to control their fingers in a way that they need to be a little older to. So it is a bit of a challenge. We're giving them devices early at home and then at our schools a little later, but the reality is they've been on and they're starting to use that hunt and peck method that many of us are really good at already. So it is a challenge for sure. I'll be interested to see in 5 or 6 years whether keyboards are even part of our discussions as we go forward, to Trustee Crawford's comment around speech to text. I think the world is changing very quickly with Siri, and I'm wondering where keyboards are going to be when we get there.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, David, for being here, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, mental health and well-being update, Superintendent Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. The report can be found on pages 16 to 21 in your board package. The purpose of this report is to provide information on the Year 1, 2018-2019 implementation of the DDSB Wellbeing and Mental Health 3-year strategic plan. The DDSB strategic priority for well-being, the vision, is to create welcoming, safe, and inclusive learning space. The Year 1 priority of Welcome and Include was focused on intentionally and explicitly creating school and classroom-based environments. An analysis of the goals connected with the Year 1 implementation and the Mental Health Strategic Plan showed a number of implementation highlights. A comprehensive list can be found on pages 17 to 18 of the report. During the 2018-19 school year, we attended the board meeting to highlight the first 20 Days of Wellbeing initiative. This evening, we would like to highlight the implementation of the Mentor Text project. See Appendix A on pages 20 to 21. I would like to welcome Stephanie Pellebor, our mental health lead, Angela Davis, facilitator of arts and health and physical education, and Naz Dindar, principal of Norman G. Powers, and her school team to share with you an update on the implementation of our Mentor Text project.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about the great work that's happening across our system in support of student well-being and mental health. As mentioned by Superintendent Davis in the board report, we've shared with you many highlights of the past year, but in our presentation tonight, we want to highlight one particular initiative, the Mentor Text project, and our plans to move this initiative forward in this year. We know that when students are preoccupied with emotional concerns, it is difficult for them to learn. Embedding well-being in all we do allows us to actualize our Ignite learning priorities and create the foundational conditions for all our students to thrive. The DDSB Well-Being and Mental Health Strategic Plan is rooted in the belief that mental health and well-being of our students and staff is a shared responsibility and focuses on cultivating the conditions for healthy learning and work environments. The Mentor Text project explicitly links curriculum connections to the use of Mentor Text picture books in order to support opportunities for meaningful conversations about mental health and well-being, to help foster the social, emotional, and resiliency skills that are essential to maintaining positive mental health, and to support our educators in meeting both curriculum expectations and in integrating well-being into the instructional day.
So mentor texts are pieces of literature that teachers and students can return to and reread for many different purposes. Good mentor texts allow students to hear and see different voices and styles, to see and hear stories that they can relate to expose students to new ideas, thoughts, and experiences, and a good mentor text can teach more than just writing skills. This resource is divided into 2 sections for each book contained in it. An example of the first section, the overview, is shown here on the screen. The overview includes a summary of the book and the curriculum connections for language, health and physical education, and the arts curriculums. For the language curriculum, we have made the connection to reading. The mentor texts, in addition to supporting specific expectations from the healthy living strand, provide a good opportunity for developing social emotional learning skills in the health and physical education curriculum. The integration of these skills with each of the 15 books gives students the opportunity to develop, practice, and refine these skills as they mature. As they develop and apply the social emotional learning skills, students will build resiliency. They will learn to make choices that protect their safety and health and enable them to become independent thinkers and responsible young adults who are capable of developing strong relationships and who are committed to a lifelong, healthy, active living and positive mental health and well-being. In this project, we also linked the important lessons taught to the arts curriculum, specifically visual arts. Visual arts provides ways of describing, exploring, and responding, and can be used to express ideas, experience, and feelings in a positive manner. The second section of the resource is the lesson, which describes the process of use. As I mentioned on the previous slide, for the language curriculum, we have made the connection to reading. The instructional approach used to share each book with the students is a read aloud. Reading aloud to students gives them experiences with quality literature, motivates them to read, demonstrates ways of responding to text, and exhibits reading strategies that proficient readers use. Teachers are given the lesson, including cues for the book and questions to ask during pre-reading, during the reading, and after reading. Extension activities may also be included for some books, but what is included in the lesson section for all books is a step-by-step visual arts connection that will help to reinforce the ideas around well-being from the readings while meeting specific arts expectations.
We initially piloted the Mentor Text project with 4 schools that included 16 classrooms and educators representing all divisions. And the results you'll see shortly were very positive in terms of building educator capacity, confidence, and comfort, and having meaningful conversations about mental health and well-being. Since the pilot phase, we focused on system promotion by having mentor texts available for all elementary schools. We hosted professional development sessions in central and northern locations, providing schools information on the why, the what, and the how, and gave 50 kits to the schools that attended. And as indicated in your report this fall, we're presenting the kits to our literacy facilitators in order to build their capacity to support and guide schools in their use of the kits. We have planned a targeted professional development for schools still needing to receive their kits. We're sourcing out French language versions of each text. We're considering how would we develop a secondary version of a mentor text, and we're updating the guide with the new health and phys ed curriculum changes. But it's one thing to hear this project from a systems perspective. It's another thing to hear it from a school-based perspective. I'd like to share with you a video that speaks to the impact this project has had at one particular school, Norman G. Powers. And after the video, the Norman G. Powers team who's here, Principal Nazine Dindar, Matt Taylor, Aaron Zaffino, and Jen Bayford, will expand on their experiences.
Our experience here with the mentor text has been fantastic. Being able to use it, for teachers to have a resource that they can use has been extremely valuable. Well-being is something my staff has been talking about, saying that they wanted to address in their classrooms, but they were always asking about the how. How do I do it? How does this happen? And they're committed to it, but by having these mentor texts, the teachers are actually getting something that they can actually do in the classroom.
As a staff, we found it very easy to implement because the program that came with each book was very user-friendly, was very adaptable.
For our grade 8 language assignment, we used the book Pete the Cat's Groovy Guide to Life. This book has lots of quotes from famous people with Pete the Cat's perspective. Our job was to take these quotes and interpret our versions of the quote.
When we were doing the Pete the Cat, we did some connections with Bell Let's Talk Day.
So the quote from Pete the Cat is, life is, keep it simple, chill out. The actual quote was, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. This quote means that we're making life harder on ourselves by trying to be the best at everything that we're doing when we don't have to, or that don't stress yourself with unnecessary drama.
I found that using the text provided confidence not only for myself to discuss these issues with the students, but also for the students to find confidence in bringing new issues to light.
Reading this book made a difference to us because now we know what to do when we feel like upset or we feel uncomfortable about something.
After the sort of project was over, they still sort of were engaged about it. They still had connections with it. I had students coming back the following week telling me a story about something that happened outside of school, but because we had talked about it in class, they sort of knew how to deal with it. Again, some of the benefits I thought from using the text were, again, just sort of having that easy access to it. If an issue down the road came up in class, we could then refer to the text itself to sort of help our students deal with those issues. Well, remember when Whimsy had this issue in Heavier Things, what was one of the things that she did to deal with it? So sort of, we use it as a connection piece as well.
I like the book Pete the Cat because it sends a message that every single day you should make the most of it.
Content is the well-being, but the actual expectations are coming from other areas. So it's not feeling like it's an add-on. It's something that we're embedding actually into the actual classroom programming, which again is something that teachers love, and it is something that makes it really very real and come alive in the classroom.
As the principal of Norman G. Powers, I'm always looking for ways to support teachers in embedding well-being in everyday practice, and the mentor texts definitely support this goal. These texts help us to not only target our goals in well-being, but also in literacy and in equity. The mentor texts provide teachers with resources that can be used in their language programs, making supporting well-being a natural part of what we do. These lesson plans address specific literacy expectations and are which are already a part of teachers' language programs. These mentor texts support our goals in equity as well. Through the books, conversations, and activities, teachers are developing a deeper understanding of student identity, which assists them in becoming more culturally responsive. As a principal, it is great to be able to provide teachers with a tangible resource to teach our students about well-being and take our commitment from theory to everyday practice.
So after the three of us were initially trained on the mentor text, we brought the resources back to staff and used them to support our Bell Let's Talk Day activities. Every class was asked to do activities during that week around well-being and mental health, and it was really amazing to see how many teachers used the resources in their classrooms. It was also great to see how visible the use of these resources was around the school. Many teachers created bulletin boards around the mentor texts for the students and the communities to see. We found the students so receptive to these books and conversations, which to us was really indicative of how much of a need there is in the schools to do this work.
Being involved in this project had a definite impact on my teaching practice personally. The mentor text really acted as a conduit and enabler for conversations about mental health and helped my students and myself by giving us the language to keep the conversation going. It also allowed us to create a comfortable space to discuss these issues, which sometimes were hard. By letting us relate them to a character in the story, this allowed students to share more without feeling like they've exposed themselves and kept it safe.
Using the mentor texts was a great jumping off point for us. We continued using them throughout the remainder of the year, and the biggest change for me was how it impacted us even into this year. As a school, we have scheduled school-wide daily community circles as part of our language block, which will allow us to continue to discuss well-being topics throughout the year. From the conversations and discussions, a well-being student group was created with our intermediates, and this year they have developed a year-long plan of activities for our school community to reinforce the importance of well-being.
Overall, we feel very fortunate to have been part of this project. Using books may seem so simple, but it really has been powerful and effective. We look forward to continuing to deepen our work in this area.
I'd like to end this presentation by saying thank you to the amazing team here at Norman G. Powers for sharing their story with us. One of the things they did not mention is they are mentoring senior students who can then read the mentor text and engage in conversations with younger students. So there's a student leadership program in the making by using the mentor text. I'd like to thank Angela Davis and Katie Golinsky, who's a teacher. They were working tirelessly to help make their curriculum connections and produce this rich resource for our system. A thank you to Family of Schools Superintendent Malia for her support of the Norman G. Powers School, for Superintendent Peterson for her support for curriculum and achievement, and Superintendent Davis for ongoing support for the work of well-being, and of course for Director Miller and her commitment to making well-being a strategic pillar for this board.
This concludes our presentation. We welcome any questions or comments that you may have at this time.
Just one question. I want to tie this into the digital, leveraging digital. Are these books going to be able to purchase through the e-books so that all schools can have them?
I think that's a great question and worth exploring. At this point, we haven't. We've just used the print versions, but as we continue to roll this out through the system, it's definitely something we will consider. So thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you. I was very impressed by the presentation, and I just made a note of what you had said about students using characters in the books to maybe explore their own feelings, and it's safe because it's, you can talk about it out loud, but you can also, use the character as a jumping off point. So I think that's excellent, and embedding wellness in all facets of the school, including a well-being goal in your SIP sauce. So I think this is all really very positive. The one question I had was implement grade appropriate social emotional learning. So I know that, our grades are all chronologically based on age, but often our social emotional age is very different. So in the mentoring and the guidance of teachers, do they have the ability to, or are they mentored to use different texts that might be more appropriate for the social emotional age of their students?
Yes, so the resource guide is broken down into books recommended for kindergarten, for primary, junior, and intermediate. But each book can be used within different grades depending on how the teacher assesses the students and assesses the content. So Whimsy's Heavy Things was used with your intermediate class? Yeah. And then used also with smaller kids, because it's really about a book about how much stress and troubles we carry through life. And we can talk about that with kids who are 6, or we can talk about that with kids who are 13. I think that's the value of a picture book. Mm-hmm. It is a bit ageless. Yeah. And so yes, there's lots of modifications to age that can be used with the Mentor Text project.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. I was just actually gonna ask what Donna was asking about the ability to access them digitally and the supporting documents of how to use the books for teachers. So if that was going to be online and digitally accessible. I love the embedding it part of it, because this makes it not an add-on but a part of the school and a part of the learning. So I love the fact that it's gone to the point where it's embedded and it's not something that you have to think about adding on, but it's some part, we've embedded it into a different part of the curriculum, and it's easy, and it's what I think it speaks a lot to our toolkit that we were talking about, that we released earlier about a CRRP toolkit. And so this is adding on to that line. So we've made it easy. This is how you integrate it into math. This is how you integrate it into science. So I love that part of it, and I love the feedback of the schools that have done it. Thank you very much. And I think this is an important part of not just talking it, but actually walking the walk. So thank you very much.
Seeing none, I love the mentor text because it speaks to me in a different way. We all realize that academics are extremely important, but it also tells me that we need to focus on the athletics, the arts, and attitude. So I've always referred to that as the 4 A's, because I see that they are all very important to well-being in our students and our staff. So thank you for coming, joining us, your entire team. And I also see sitting in the background Ken McNaughton, who is here to support you. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Moving on, Trustee Sally, I think you've asked to have your presentation next month. Perfect, thank you. May I ask you then for the student report? And
So to start our student trustee report, I want to report that on Friday, September 20th, we hosted our annual Student Senate Leadership Symposium to kick off the year for our Student Senate. Senators were given the opportunity to learn about the roles and responsibilities of a senator, as well as given a chance to improve their leadership skills to be great leaders within our board. It was excellent all around, and we were very happy to also distribute the Student Voice document of best practices and the Student Voice poster at this event. The Student Voice poster has now been distributed to every secondary school in Durham, and many of our senators actually took the initiative to take it back to their schools and inform students about the Student Voice system through methods such as classroom visits and presentations that they've been giving. The Student Voice document of best practices was also distributed, and many students have now taken the ideas of that and are using that to within their student councils to collect student voice. And I'm very happy with the results of this, and it's been going very well so far.
Earlier this afternoon, we also held our first Student Senate meeting. At this meeting, over 30 student senators shared their progress in their student councils, elected social affairs and regional positions, and chose their membership on one of our 3 committees, which are Student Voice, Equity, and Wellbeing. We were very pleased with the amount of open discussion and enthusiasm flowing in this room, and as such, we look forward to creating positive change alongside these student leaders in the upcoming school year. That concludes a majority of the Senate meeting. I can add that, I guess. But yeah, no, this Senate has been, it's been a good start, and we're looking forward to building upon the work we did last year as well. So we're really looking forward to the year to come. Yeah. Thank you.
Very much. Moving on, and we would talk about our Parent Involvement Committee and Superintendent Monday.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. The report can be found on pages 22 and 23 of the agenda package. The Ministry of Ontario requires that every school board establish a Parent Involvement Committee by November 15th of each school year. The purpose of the Parent Involvement Committee is to support, encourage, and enhance parent engagement to improve student achievement and well-being. The Parent Involvement Committee co-facilitates 2 regional SCC events and supports the Volunteer of Distinction ceremony as well as Parents of Partners Symposium in April. At the close of 2018-2019 school year, we had 3 vacancies on the committee. Information on vacancies was shared with school leaders, SCC chairs, and also through social media. We received 13 expressions of interest, and we were able to fill all positions except for a secondary representative for the North Townships of Brock, Uxbridge, and Scugog at this time. The members of the Parent Involvement Committee are listed on page 23. We look forward to working together to support the engagement strategic plan and increase student achievement and well-being by building positive involvement for all families.
Any comments regarding PIC committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Superintendent Monday. Moving on. Graduation rates, Superintendents Peterson and Nevels.
Through you, Madam Chair. On pages 24 through 27 of your package, you'll find an information item on graduation rates within the Durham District School Board. Because of the collected efforts of our dedicated students and parents and their guardians, as well as the focus on our strategic priority of success by our grade kindergarten through 12 teachers and administrators, our graduation rate within Durham District School Board has risen above the provincial average. The rates published by the Ministry of Education relate to the cohort of students who entered grade 9 in 2013-2014 school year and show that 82% of the cohort graduated within 4 years. Students who continued their studies brought the graduation rate to 88 the following year. Along with the over 4,000 students who earned their Ontario Secondary School Diploma in the 2013-2014 cohort, we also had 28 students who earned their Ontario Secondary School Certificate and 12 who earned their Certificate of Accomplishment. We're very proud of our graduation rates for the 2013-2014 cohort, and we will entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments? Graduation rates, well done. Thank you very much. We are proud of those rates. Sorry? Okay, we'll move on. Release of EQAO and OSSLT results, Superintendents Peterson and Nevels again.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. The report can be found on pages 28 to 40 in the board agenda. In collaboration with Superintendents Nevels, Macaulay, Hamid, Maliha, and Manager of Research Chris Conley, this report is provided to you as information. The purpose of the report is to provide trustees with the results of the 2018-2019 EQAO primary and junior assessments, grade 9 academic and applied mathematics, and the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test. The latest results released by the Education Quality and Accountability Office show that students in our board are achieving at or above the province in all areas of the assessments. The table and graph on page 30 of the board agenda provides a visual summary of the results. Pages 31 to 34 provides a visual summary of proportional outcomes for various groups. In collaboration with the Accountability and Assessment Department, we analyzed the item information report for the system and identified common learning gaps related to literacy and numeracy curriculum expectations. The chart on page 35 reflects the system needs for improving student achievement in literacy and numeracy at the primary and junior levels. Pages 36 to 39 outlines the areas of focus for the 2019-2020 school year and the actions to improve student achievement and close learning gaps. Our educators and support staff are committed to student success and are working very hard to grow every student every year. This report is provided as information, and we would be pleased to respond to any questions. We also thank Chris Conley for being here this evening.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on feedback that I've heard from parents around standardized testing, that although many of them are convinced that this format could possibly be improved, parents generally like the idea of standardized testing. I just had a question around the grade 9 applied student groups. And there seems to be a 64% difference between the highest and lowest percentage of achievement there. And just a little clarification. Did I understand that correctly, that these results, these were a result of an increase in ELL students, English language learner students? Is that correct? And is that supported by your data? It's on page 7.
Yes, we're taking a look at difference between what the highest achievement level, which is all students at 84% in the academic, as compared to the lowest achievement on all of the assessments, which was the ELL students in the applied group.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. My question was also around the applied. I'm worried about that huge gap between the students that are successful and the students that are not successful, and I'm wondering if we've identified any trends, anything that we're going to be targeting, anything that we're changing. I recognize that it's equivalent across the province in regards to that, but I'm wondering how we can change that.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. So one of the endeavors we embarked on last year was really looking at making choices for students who are being streamed and applied in academic. And we made an active choice through Choosing My Success program to work with parents and have students redefine the criteria of who should be going into applied and who should be going into academic, and especially our marginalized students, because we know that going into the academic course changes the trajectory for those students as opposed to those students in applied. So 1,000 more students went into academic who traditionally would have gone into applied as well. So what we're looking at now in the differences in both some of the applied results and the academic are the gap closing mechanisms that we need to focus on. So we introduced faces on the data earlier in elementary as a strategy. Now we're starting, we piloted it last year in a number of schools and are looking at it in secondary. So what becomes really strategic is the analysis by school. So if you see in the report, we provided the big overview of what we need to be doing systemically. Every school gets these reports as well, so they can narrow down where they need to go in terms of individualized results, and our coaches can help. But our big focus is gap closing and initiating structures within the secondary school that specifically address them.
Thank you. So I'm just going to say I clearly have a different constituency base than Trustee Thatcher, because I don't hear positive things about standardized testing at all. In fact, and you know, it might be a bit of a self-selecting group for sure, but I have heard over and over again how little people believe that actually speaks to deep learning that is happening. And I just wanted to observe that because I think it's important, but it also is relevant to my next observation, which I think is an easy thing to address in some respects. I'm looking at the data that's provided, and I can see the difference from the year previously, but I actually think it would be helpful to have more longitudinal data in front of me, because I can't actually know if there are learning strategies that have been engaged that have worked over time. So statistics are challenging, generally speaking, because, well, most people don't understand them. But beyond that, it's also challenging because the way that this testing is done, it can be very skewed from year to year, from class to class, from school to school. And so I recognize that the data exists outside of this report, and I think what I'm hoping for is some indication of, as a board, or as, you know, I know you're identifying schools that have challenges, et cetera, but also as a board, are we continually going up? Are we continually going down? Is there something that we are doing that's working in some years and not in others, and are we reevaluating our strategy each year as we go to make sure that we're responding to whatever is actually happening? And I can't tell this from this, and I know there's a lot more than this, but that's all I have.
Through you, Chair. Yes, we have been, we're very fortunate with our board that we have either mirrored the province or we've been above the province in all areas for a number of years. It's not just this year, it's been for probably the last 9 to 10 that our scores have either mirrored or been a substantial increase. When you look at the chart and things, you can see that we're substantially above the province in the areas of mathematics, especially in the areas of junior assessment with the grade 6 assessment, and also with the primaries. We went down with the primaries this year, and we went down in both the reading and the math, and we're quite upset about that, and we're looking into that. So the itemized individual reports, Chris Conley and the curriculum department looked at what it looked like system-wide, and that chart on page 35 indicates the areas of need that we have. In regards to that, every single school came in to do an itemized account on their own school to find out if this mirrored their needs, but they're looking at what every single student did in the primary assessment and the junior assessment, where the gaps were, and then they will then address those gaps. They're also going to look at if it's a longitudinal study as well, to find if it was just a gap with that cohort or if it actually was a gap for a number of years. One of the things that we have found is that a number of our schools, our students do not come with a lot of background knowledge, and so teachers are having to close that gap, and they utilize a number of different texts and things and different strategies, and we're really fortunate that our teachers are really skilled in what they're doing in the classroom and the strategies that they're utilizing for interventions and the small group guided practice that they're having with their students, both in reading, writing, and mathematics. So we keep on looking at those itemized reports. We work really closely with Chris to really dig deep with the data so that we know specifically what that gap is and what that need is, and then we address the strategies to close those.
Director Miller, Director Miller will address that as well.
So thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Just to expand on a couple things, because I think I know what you're asking. Every school completes an EQAO plan and does an assessment and analysis based on their scores. Every SO completes an EQAO monitoring plan to go and work with their schools in the training. The training is then tailored, especially with the priority schools, but also at the family of schools meetings and through the coaches that go out to the schools to support. Right now, we're just completing demographic booklets for all the trustees. And in that, you're going to get all the demographic data for your area and an overview of the EQAO data for your school. So you'll get that chart. And then superintendents will set up meetings with their trustees to go over not only EQAO data, but poverty data for their area, EDI data, marginalized and racialized data that you have. And then what we do is we're setting up meetings and we can have trustee voice and input into their area and the ideas. But the data that you're looking for is currently being developed into a booklet based on your family of schools, and that's coming.
Thank you. Really thrilled and can't wait to get that information, so thank you. My question is around the special education results. You know, we're looking at half to 2/3 of identified students not meeting the provincial expectations. We have an Ontario Human Rights Commission launching an inquiry regarding special education students in the province and reading. So I guess my question is, I was pleased to see that we're leveraging digital, but we still have skills that the students need to close those gaps, in addition to scaffolding them with digital. So I'm just, I guess, and I see the primary and junior. I'm looking for what are our next steps to really target these results and improve them.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We do recognize we have a lot of work ahead of us to bring up the proportional outcomes for our students with special education needs. So for the 2019-2020 school year, we are specifically focusing on 2 of our cohorts. Our students with learning disabilities as our largest group of exceptional learners, and our students with autism as our fastest growing group of learners. So working with partners such as CRIS, curriculum, innovation, and across family of schools, We link to our work in equity about starting with who are our students and understanding. And so when we look at that LD component, we actually feel that we have 3 subgroups of students: those with pure form diagnosis of LD, those that have an academic identification that may be in that more in-betweener in terms of cognitive ability, and those that may actually be at the high end of the MID or mild intellectual disability range. And so what we really need to do is work with our school teams, digging into the data, and Chris has provided, we know that if we move our learners with LD, we move these scores for our kids and change their outcomes. And again, as our largest group of exceptional learners, that's where we're going to begin the work, led by our psychology department, because it's really around the cognitive understandings of where the kids position and linking with the wellness component of how they approach learning as well. So we do recognize we've got work to do in order to honor and support the pathways of our kids, but that's where we're starting for this year, our cohort with LD, and the breakdown of kind of those 3 subgroups within the students, as well as our kids with ASD, and then building from there. Appreciate the comment and absolutely acknowledge the work ahead of us.
And just supplemental quick, I know that from my work with Learning Disabilities Association, phonological awareness was very important, and I was just wondering if the speech language department is also kind of engaged, especially with the the early learners to gain those skills.
Through you, Chair. Absolutely. So although we've positioned the work in the leadership of one of the 2 teams, the team that's working on that comes across all 4 of the groups within our department, and then the cross-section as appropriate with hearing and vision as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Not a question, just a quick comment, is that when we used to get these reports, we used to get the longitudinal data, and this percentage change from one year to the other isn't doing it for me. I just kind of preferred what we had, like 2017, 2018, 2019, and I can quickly deduce what our ups and downs are. But the also is that is this method 1 or method 2, in that this doesn't include the people that wrote, that got 0 or basically, and did not write. I got 0, sorry, in the test, because it's not really clear on what data you're reporting here.
For the grade 3, 6, and 9, it's referring to all students that participated in the assessment. So all students who are eligible to write the assessment, whatever their marks were, are included in the percentages. In the OSSLT, that is the only assessment where we were reporting on the fully participating, which is the provincial mandate for reporting.
Just a supplemental, I'm going to touch it on my my OPSPA report, but we did have the Chief Executive Officer at our OPSPA meeting who talked about direction on EQAL. So I'll just mention that in my report.
Thank you. This is a very comprehensive report. I only have one additional comment, and that would be looking at the grade 6 math results. I'm thinking that there's reason for concern there, but I know that we, not only in the Durham District School Board, but provincially, we're doing much to improve those math scores. So thank you. Nikki?
I'm really sorry. Someone said something and it raised a question that I had. Do we have a sense of how many, like percentage-wise, how many students don't participate, whose parents either decline to have them participate or who just don't write for?
Through you, Chair, we have a very small percentage that does not write. It may be 1 or 2 at a family of schools, but most of our students write.
moving on, and I think we're going to come back to Superintendent Sylvia Peterson and Stephen Nevels to talk about the Ontario Ministry of Education released updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On pages 41 through 51 of your report, you will find an information item on the recent Ministry of Education updates to curriculum and report cards. The key highlights are expectations 6.4 and 24.1 of the kindergarten program, which is further explained in Appendix 1. These new expectations place a greater focus on student safety and specifically concussions, even for our kindergarten students. There are some organizational changes to the careers curriculum as outlined in Appendix 2, with a focus on financial planning for post-secondary and exploring options for students that is now spread throughout the curriculum. There's information there as well on the ministry report cards, which have been updated to include the new ministry logo and the language changes that reflect the new elementary physical education curriculum. Overall, the changes explained here are relatively minor in the larger scope of curriculum reform, but we welcome any questions or comments that you may have about what the ministry has released since the start of the school year.
Questions, comments? Trustee Thatcher?
Yeah, I was just going to say I think it's always good when the ministry is willing to provide funds to build capacity and also to provide resources that are needed. I was just wondering around the resources. I did flip through, I did see there were sections here where we had some of the listed resources. Are they primarily websites, or is there any new resources provided for these?
Through you, Chair, nothing's been provided yet from the ministry. They have said that it will be coming during the school year.
But the program was supplemental? The programs, the changes to the curricula where they were to be implemented starting in September.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The report's found on page 52 of tonight's agenda. Under the analysis section, which is on page 52, you can see back in September of 2017, the Durham District School Board submitted for 5 capital projects, of which in March of 2018, we received approval for the following projects: unnamed Beaverton Thora, unnamed North Ajax FI Public School, and unnamed North Whitby Public School. On to page 53, you can see that there is a number of steps in the construction process. And on September 16th of 2019, the Durham District School Board did receive approval to move ahead with the unnamed North Ajax and unnamed North Whitby School for proceeding to tender only. That is not the approval to construct. So at this point in time, we're moving to the tender phase. Hopefully, our tenders are very successful. We rapidly receive ministry approval and continue with the project. Madam Chair, that's the essence of the report. Delighted to answer any questions.
Comments, questions? I think I'm the only one to have a comment, and that is that I'm extremely disappointed that we have not received ministry approval for the Beaverton rebuild. And I hope that the province realizes the needs of our northern rural students. Hopefully that will be forthcoming.
And Madam Chair, on that particular project, if I may add, with Beaverton, the subdivision that is being built to the north and west of the school, this past fall was only to have completed phase, I believe, 2, and it's already completed phase 3, and it's moving towards more housing completions in February of 2020. So certainly we do relay that information to the ministry and continue that advocacy.
Thank you for that update. Moving on, we're going to talk about our dress code policy, and I'll go to Superintendent Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. The report can be found on pages 55 to 58 of your board package. The purpose of this report is to provide trustees with the process and timelines to be used to revise the policy and regulations student dress code. This revision process serves as a part of the regular policy and regulation review cycle. The policy and regulation student dress code is scheduled to be revised during the 2019-2020 school year. Each school in the DDSB is responsible for establishing and annually reviewing a dress code for students that promotes a safe and respectful environment for teaching and learning. The dress code critical pathway and flowchart, Appendix A, on page 58, outlines the process and timelines that will be used to revise the policy and regulation. I would like to highlight the consultation process that will involve the student trustees and other student voices, as well as a request that 2 trustees be appointed to participate on the dress code committee. This concludes the report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Question? Michael Barrett.
Just a question, and maybe it's just an interpretation of the language. We're talking about appointing 2 trustees. And I understand that you've mentioned consultation with the student trustees. Should not student trustees be permanent members of this committee? Am I just not, maybe they are, and I'm just not getting that?
Through you, Madam Chair, we would like the student trustees to be members of the committee, and we're requesting that other trustees to be in part of the committee. Thank you for the question.
I guess this is a question to everybody. I'm assuming that the board gets the final say on the dress code, in spite of the fact of you're putting together several months of work and then presenting it to the board. That's just a yes, I guess. And as to the, can it be that trustees could attend any one of these meetings? It doesn't have to be limited to 2 or the 2 named?
Through you, Madam Chair, we do welcome trustees, and we do recognize that all trustees will have an opportunity to review the process. Sometimes in a committee, we recommend that there be consultation with fewer people so that we can have like an outline of something to bring to the rest, but everyone is welcome.
Michael Barrett.
Just want to comment on that. As past practice on committees, we have appointed individuals to the committees. Those trustees that attend are really the only ones that speak and represent. Attending a meeting is fine, but we're not expecting 10 or 11 trustees to be able to show up. It's past practice. We have one person on pick, Scott Templeton, for example. You can attend, but only Scott really represents the board. And so I would just want to be able to put that into context as per our operating process. You can certainly attend, but the 2 individuals that are selected will be the ones that will represent the board.
Well, that's understood.
I just wanted,
it was the alternative of attending, if you wish.
I just wanted to make sure, Trustee Crawford. So good.
And code is now on site, and how do we find it? I have some trouble navigating our site when I'm looking for something specific. Maybe I'll just ask
through you, Madam Chair, I would be happy, Trustee Crawford, to give you a tutorial of how to find the dress code at your convenience.
I don't think you can ask for more than that. Thank you. Patrice Barnes.
Thank you. I just wanted to check with the input. Are we going to have something online? Whereas somebody doesn't have to necessarily come to a meeting, but you can get more input from community-wide if there's an online component to the stakeholders' input, and in different languages.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, we will add that to, we have on our flowchart here, face-to-face, thought exchanges, and absolutely that is another method that we will use, absolutely.
One last thing. there's a recommendation that we have 2 trustees appointed to that committee. Instead of appointing somebody, could we volunteer to serve on that committee? Do we have any trustees who would like to serve on the dress code committee? Ashley and Nikki and Patrice? Just 2? Okay. So we have Ashley Noble for sure, and then between, would you like to arm wrestle, or?
I think you need a man, though. It can't be all this.
It's Patrice? It's Patrice Barnes. Thank you. We have our 2 volunteers. Thank you. Moving on to the OPSPA report, and I'll ask Donna Edwards.
OPSPA Policy and Programs Committee met on September 20th, and I just wanted to note that we did have Cameron Montgomery, the EQAO Chair, and Nora Marsh, the EQA Chief Executive Officer, at that meeting. And they did talk about some of the future direction on EQAO. One of the things is why I mentioned Method 1 and Method 2 is that they are looking at changing the denominator in that they will exclude students who basically are new English language learners and those not accessing the Ontario curriculum. So that's one of the directions they're looking at. They said that they would provide both methods this year, but next year they're looking at that's what will happen. They're also looking at their commitment to equity around special education, applied programming, and identity-based data, a commitment to qualitative data, to evidence-informed decisions, commitment to equity and precision in measurement, and about collaboration. So this was sort of their first group is to hit with us and talk about EQAO. Many of the comments that have been mentioned about EQAO and some of the issues around it were mentioned to these 2 individuals. We also had our student trustees from the Student Trustees Associations. Each member was president at the Policy and the Programs Committee, which was great to see. So it was a great, had great feedback. As well as we had Sam Oosterhoff, the parliamentarian assistant to the Ministry of Education, who spoke about direction. At the directors' meeting on the 27th and the 28th, we had the Minister of Education, Mr. Honorable Lecce, who basically talked about sort of his vision around education. We did not have the opportunity to ask any questions. At the directors' meeting, of course, we talked about labor issues, staffing issues, up-and-coming legislation or regulations, basically the proposed regulation around the changes around the EDC development charges, as well as PP 128, the Provincial Code of Conduct for School Boards, and the Enhancing Municipal Road Safety through Automated Speed Enforcement were some of the key items we talked about. We also very much wanted to talk about trustees and ensuring that the role of trustees are known. And usually the third last week of October is a local government week, and a lot of times trustees get overlooked and coming into schools. However, at this point in time, because of the election, we have heard nothing from Ministry of Municipal Affairs whether the local government week is going to happen. We also had discussions about maybe them possibly changing it because local government week happens basically federal election and also happens usually around municipal elections, and so we cannot take part. But we just still want to ensure that local schools and school boards basically, ask their trustees to come and participate in the grade 5 class and grade 10 civic class to talk about the role of trustees. We also put together a little package around electoral messages or around asking questions for the federal candidates, and that can be found on the website. And that is my report.
Correspondence or other business. So I'm going to ask for a motion, but I don't want anyone to go away because we've got a special board meeting to follow. So could I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Christine Thatcher. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, trustees, I'll now call the next board meeting to order, which is in this October 7th special board meeting folder. I'll call the meeting to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to Associate Director David Visser to be able to go over the report found on pages 1 to 11.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We'll start on page 2 of the report, or page 2 of 5 of, 2 of the report, the agenda, or 2 of 5 of the report. So where we last left in June of 2019 is we had a deficit with the board of $10.9 million, comprising 3 figures: an anticipated deficit, funding of secondary teachers, and then a TCA non-cash amortization item. We have had correspondence and meetings with the ministry. They do not have any issue with our draw for secondary teachers, nor the non-cash amortization. And in fact, on Monday, September the 16th, they did inform us that approximately $800,000 of our $1.3 million deficit was not approved, and it needed to, a budget needed to be redone and submitted by October the 16th to ensure compliance. So one of the questions that we did have with them is in the fall of this year, the Durham District School Board, above the amount of elementary students included in the estimates in June of 2019, we exceeded that figure by about 560 students, and that's shown in the box on the bottom of page 2. So the ministry has indicated that we can resubmit our budget based upon the higher number of elementary students. This does not take away from the process that we also must follow in the fall of November, and that is our revised estimates process. So page 3 of 5 shows in a very tight summary what that 560 students generate. It generates elementary enrollment grants of $5.4 million. We did include that the renewed mass strategy transfer payment was decreased by $500,000, and that we also had to reduce our accumulated surplus draw by $800,000 for the non-approved amount. And I would highlight that we still have in excess of $500,000 deficit in the current year to overcome. The expenditures are on the bottom side of the page 3 of 5. Staffing, $3.8 million comprised of elementary teachers, librarians, and early childhood educators. As well, you can see the reduction for the renewed mass strategy transfer payment. The third item under expenditures, there was some matching of some envelope-specific grants that needed to be adjusted within certain areas, and then there was also an adjustment to supply coverage, about $400,000, of which $330,000 of that amount is within the special education area. On page 4 of 5, you can see that with these adjustments for special education, there is a decrease in the deficit for special education. The enrollment increase did not allow us to move any additional funds to special education, but in fact, when we look at school operations at the June budget, our school operations was underfunded by $2 million, and with the adjustments that are shown here in this revised submission, our deficit in the school operations and maintenance area is $2.5 million, as there wasn't any funds to move to that to that specific area. I did want to highlight that at the bottom of page 4 or 5 of the report, we do have additional pressures in facilities, the opening of a new school, but the funding at this point in time did not allow us to make any further adjustments. So we do have a recommendation here. What I would say, Mr. Chair and trustees, is that we do have the revised estimates process in the fall that'll allow us to adjust some figures further. We are working through the director to senior staff to find the other $500,000 in-year savings that we need to generate, and that process is ongoing. Under the recommendation section, we do have the motion that was passed in June, on June the 26th, and a replacement motion for trustees' consideration. Mr. Chair, that is the report. Delighted to answer any questions trustees may have.
Thank you. We'll go to Darlene Forbes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to be clear that even though the deficit in the spec ed envelope has decreased, we're still committed to covering that shortfall of $3,041,363.
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Trustees, seeing no other questions, I'm going to divide this into two. I'm going to suggest that rescinding a motion should actually be stand alone as indicated. So I am looking for someone to move the motion as found on page 5. It is recommended. Trustee Lundquist, Trustee Forbes. So it is recommended the 2019-2020 draft budget containing total revenues of $849 million and total expenses of $851 million, prepared in accordance with public sector accounting PSAP standards, be approved as presented pending ministry approval in the year deficit for compliance purposes of $10,883,000 that we're voting to rescind this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We now have the second motion on that same page. If I could have someone to be able to make that motion. Trustee Templeton, Trustee Edwards, discussion to that motion, which is, it is recommended the Board of Trustees approves the 2019-2020 budget containing total revenues $854 million, total expenditures $855, prepared in accordance with Public Senior Accounting Board PSAP standards. Any discussion with regards to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Seeing no further business, needing a motion for adjournment, Trustee Thatcher. Thank you, trustees. Remember, we are gathering again for a short while. You're okay?